things will almost always go too far in the wrong direction rather than stopping straight out before it's too late. More relationships will sour into domestics than end at the first sign of red flags. Weapons of mass destruction weren't banned until they'd caused several massacres around the world. The ceasefires weren't called in Ireland until hundreds of children had died in collateral. We always find ourselves too ignorant and naive to the misdoings around us, and we aren't willing to recognize the consequences that our real terrible actions and horrendous deeds are causing until they've caused so much destruction and so much pain and so much negative influence with such little positive, if any, at that. The wars end with so many deaths and such little progress, be it a regaining of the smallest patch of land or the vague title of being an independent nation, which realistically means nothing, or a relationship status now that is less fabric and more air and nonsense to you, but appearing as something in a social stance. It's always going to be worse than what it makes because we allow it to be. We push down on the pedals rather than the brakes because we think if we go fast enough we'll miss, but we always end up crashing into whatever is ahead of us in the worst way, going out in flames and fire and whatnot. There's ways of discouraging this, but really there's no proper way of ending this outright. It's almost within the human condition to not recognise consequences until they're too abrupt and blunt and the worst of all. And it's really the people in power who are allowing it to keep going when people beneath them, socially, will be protesting and rioting against this, but it's so easy to turn a blind eye against those negating your own actions when they're seemingly positively benefiting you. War makes money, and money benefits the higher up, and the higher ups are the ones running war. They're not the ones dying on the battlefield, so it doesn't matter to them when the wives and mothers of soldiers are out in the streets raging for these wars to end, or the people behind domestic violence laws as chief justices and ministers who make these legislations. The majority of them haven't been in a domestic. The majority of them aren't the demographic of victim. They're old, married white men with some exceptions, and those exceptions are the ones actually making the finite changing decisions. The people making abortion laws and adding further restrictions aren't women who have been through essential situations that necessitate an abortion. They are unaffected by the issue which they're pushing to get worse until it goes too far. It's all just colliding and clashing and accumulating into a bonfire that we are just stoking and throwing straight gasoline onto with every misdeed we think has a positive outcome, which is only really progressing negativity. 2020 really has been a showcase of this in extremities, and still little is being done to partake in a sort of spin on this and a sort of turning towards another direction. And it's really showing how we are, rowing backwards almost, where we're not heading towards any form of enlightenment. We're heading away from the developments we have once made. We're heading closer to a more restrictive authoritarian state when we're supposed to be progressing democracy and power of the people. We are becoming what we once labelled our own enemies in democratic and social situations. We're becoming the entrapments and the villains. We're becoming the fascists within the anti-fascist communities. We're turning ourselves into peddlers of our own misfortune because we think that in some of the wrong we do we'll find some good to come of it, when It's not us we're meant to be working for. We're never working for ourselves. We're meant to be working for everyone. But how can we do that when we're only seeing what we see, and what we see is what we make of what we're shown, and what we're shown is what we choose to subject ourselves to? It's a vicious cycle, and there's so few ways out of it, and so few ways to purely prevent it rather than just think of going a different way. It's seriously dangerous and damaging and a detriment, but it's hard to overcome, yet we're trying, yet we're failing, yet we're making progress, yet we're going back, and it's all really overwhelming, and who knows what's next and when's next and what's going to happen with the next decision. And the only way to see is to watch it, and the only way to know is for it to go through, whether it be a good thing or a bad thing. And when it's bad, we know it's bad because we thought it was good when it was done, but it backfired completely. In short, it's a bit shit and not really going our way at the moment.